Okay po. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Ma'am. We are the Group 3, and we will tackle the important topics related to the periodic table. But first, let's have a quick icebreaker muna. Maglaro muna tayo para magising naman ang ating mga utak before makinig sa lesson. So ang game pala na ito is i-guess nyo yung title ng song based sa emoji. So kung sino yung may alam ng song, tapos na-recognize niyo yung emoji, mag-answer na lang kayo. Pwede kayo mag-on ng mic or mag-chat sa chat box.
The raise of hands, Justin.
Okay, so sino? Okay, Justin. Okay, anong answer mo?
Bad romance.
Alam mo ba? Bad romance. So, tama bang bad romance? Next, wait lang. Ay, wala. Okay, tama yung bad romance. So, tama si Justin. So, wala pala nalagay yung answer after ng slide. So, next na emoji is ito. So, sinong may alam ng title ng song?
Grenade.
Grenade. No. Pero same lang siya, mga explosive
Dynamite.
din siya. Ano?
Dynamite.
Dynamite. Yes, tama. Tama si Jeniel. So, next na emoji. Is
Ocean
ito.
Ice. Ocean Ice.
Tama. So, alam talaga sino singer dito ba? Madaming alam na song. Sige, tama yun, Ocean Ice. So, next, I think last na ito na emoji. So, ito.
7 rings.
7 rings.
Okay, tama. 7 rings. So, wala na bang emoji? Tapos na yun, no? Ay, meron pa pala. So, may last pa.
Kiss and makeup.
Sure. Kabalo dyan. Okay, tama. Kiss and makeup. Wala gani ko kabalo sa song, pero tama. So, okay. Yun lang ata ang ano namin, icebreaker. So, next.
Paninood na.
Okay, start na talaga. So, sige, next slide. Next slide po. Okay, so we already know that element is a pure substance na hindi siya pwede ma-further divide by chemical means, sabi ni Ma'am Risa dati. So, periodic table is basically a table that is created to organize these elements according to their properties, similarity and properties nila, or ang kanilang atomic number. Okay, next. So in periodic table, we can find groups and periods. So one thing to remember is that, wait lang, balik muna. So one thing to remember is that ang groups are vertical columns. So yung mga 1A, 2A, 3B, yan yung mga groups. And ang periods naman is yung mga horizontal rows. So para mas maalala siya ng madalian is that i-partner lang natin yung word na period sa Tagalog word na pahalang. So pahalang, di ba, pahiga, which means horizontal. So when we say period, remember lang natin pahalang. So automatically, ang group is vertical column na siya. So next. So the first name that comes up to our mind pag sinabi nating periodic table is si Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev. So he was a Russian chemist. He created his own version of periodic table to correct some properties already known. So he created periodic table and was able to arrange these elements according to their atomic numbers instead of atomic mass. Pero more on that later kasi i-discuss yun siya sa history. So let's proceed sa next na slide. So for the legends, we can see the symbol. So this symbol is also emphasized on our periodic tables as well. So we have the atomic mass, which is the average mass of atoms in an element. And we have the name of the element as well as the atomic number, which sabi ni ma'am also determines the number of protons present in the nucleus of an atom. So yun lang yung mga parts ng ano talaga, mga legends na kailangan nating i-remember. Next. So also, ang elements are divided into 3 groups according to their physical properties. We have metals, metalloids, and non-metals. So first are metals. So sila ay good conductors of electricity and heat. They are malleable, meaning they can be hammered into thin sheets. They're also ductile, which means it is the ability to be drawn into thin wires. And they also appear shiny at room temperature. And sometimes we assume na all metals are solids, but not in the case of mercury, because si mercury, although metal din siya, pero it appears liquid at room temperature. And dito sa middle na column, metalloids dapat yan. Metalloids then non-metals. So metalloids are also called semi-metal. Bakit? Kasi their properties lie between metals and non-metals. Pero take note na they can't be classified as either. Hindi sila pwede matawag na metal, hindi rin sila pwede matawag na non-metal. And lastly, we have the non-metals. So ang properties ni non-metals is totally opposite lang talaga kay metals. So they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They're usually gases, dull sila in appearance, brittle, and solid at room temperature. Pero meron ding liquid dito at room temperature, which is si bromide. So yun, again, metals are good conductors of electricity and heat, whereas ang non-metals kay poor conductors. Okay, next. So next we have the families in the periodic table. So group 1 is the alkali metals. So atoms of the alkali metals have a single electron in their outermost level. So malaman natin ang number of valence electron, pwede tayo mag-base sa group number actually. So kunyari group 1, 1 valence electron na yan siya automatically. So pag group 2, 2 valence electron. And then group 3, mag-proceed na tayo sa boron family. Exclude natin si transition metals. So para way lang yun siya, para mas madali mo mahanap yung valence electron nila. Mag-base lang kayo sa group number. So they are the most reactive metals kasi they are never found as free elements in nature. So meaning to say, they always combine with other elements. And also, they react violently with water. So yun si alkali metals. And also considered ang alkali metals as most reactive metals as well. So next family. So si group 2 or si alkali earth metals. So si group 2, so from the group number itself, we can deduct na ang kanyang number ng valence electron is 2. So they are never found uncombined in nature. So similar lang sila ni alkali metals. So they always react with other elements. Next. So next we have transition metals. So they are good conductors of heat and electricity. So transition elements have properties similar to one another and to other metals, but their properties do not fit in with those of any other family. So itong si transition metals, makita siya between alkali earth metals and boron family sa periodic table. And also, one important thing about transition metals is that almost all elements found in this group can react with oxygen, forming metal oxides. So for example, si manganese oxide or si iron oxide, which is commonly known as kalawang, iron oxide. So next. So next group is the boron family, which is named after the first element found on the column. So this family includes a metalloid, boron, and the rest are metals. In addition pala, ang metalloids, makikita siya dun sa parang sa ladder structure sa ating periodic table. So all na elements that are included in those parang sa ladder structure are metalloids. So this family also includes the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust, which is si aluminum. So when I say aluminum, siya yung most abundant metal on Earth. So next family, we have carbon family. So atoms of this family have 4 valence electrons. So group 4 man si carbon family, so we can conclude na 4 valence electron din siya. So this family includes a non-metal, which is carbon, metalloids, and metals. And also the element carbon is called the basis of life. So it is so important now we have a separate branch of chemistry dedicated only to carbon compound, which is the organic chemistry. So si nitrogen family, nitrogen family is named after the most abundant or major component of the Earth's atmosphere, si nitrogen. So if alam nyo, si nitrogen composed parang approximately 78% ng Earth's atmosphere. So atoms in the nitrogen family have 5 valence electrons. So they tend to share electrons when they bond. Okay, next. Next kay si oxygen family. So kung si nitrogen is yung parang most abundant in the Earth's atmosphere, si oxygen naman yung most abundant sa crust or sa Earth's crust. So atoms of this family have 6 valence electrons. So most elements in this family share electrons when forming compounds. And also si oxygen considered just as a very extreme reactive element kasi as what I've said earlier, nag-combine siya with almost all the transition metals. Kaya siya highly reactive. And next, we have the halogen family. So si halogen family, group 7 na yan siya. So they have 7 valence electron. So if we take into account the octet rule, so if alam niyo ang octet rule, it says in the rule na it only needs 8 elements for 8 valence electron for an element to become stable. So si halogen, since 7 ang kanyang valence electron, isa na lang yung kulang niya para mapuno yung kanyang outermost energy level. So this is why it is considered as the most reactive non-metal kasi isa na lang yung need niya para maging stable. So gawin niya ang lahat para lang makakuha ng 1 electron. So next family is the noble gases. So noble gases are colorless gases that are extremely unreactive. So bakit unreactive ang noble gases? It's because, di ba, si halogen family already have 7 valence electron. So that makes it 8 for noble gases. So again, according sa octet rule, 8 valence electrons lang ang kailangan para maging stable. So si noble gases, since 8 na yung kanyang valence electron, meaning stable na siya, hindi niya na need mag-react or combine with other elements. So that is why it is called inert gases, meaning inactive. So the family of noble gases includes helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. And also, all the noble gases are found in small amounts in the Earth's atmosphere. And lastly, we have the rare earth metals. So the 30 rare earth elements are composed of the lanthanide and actinide series. So one element of the lanthanide series and most of the elements in the actinide series are called transuranium, which means synthetic or man-made. So that's it for the structure of periodic table and the families found in the periodic table. So for the terminologies, this will be reported by Gisela.
So, hello everyone. Gising po ba kayo, guys? So today, so etong mga terms na ito no, usually na familiarize na nato sila since elementary na ano na natin, natakal na natin to. So kabalo ko first thing na nagasulod sa atong mind, when we say atoms, it is the smallest unit of matter. Pero I have one question to mag-answer mo no. Pwede man i-chat lang ninyo. Kung ang atoms ang smallest unit ng matter, so pila ka different kinds of atoms na ata. So how many different types of atom meron tayo? Mga 100 or 50? Hula-hulaan nyo lang guys. Sulat, i-type nyo lang kung may nahulaan kayo. Wait lang, hindi ko kasi ma-open malaki yung Zoom. Ayan. So, there are 109 different types of atoms. So, every element merong iba't ibang atoms na sa kanila. So, a charged atom or molecule, it is charged because the number of, parang mali ata. Sorry. So ang atoms, it is the smallest unit into which matter can be divided without the release of electrically charged particles. It is also the smallest unit of matter. Next is ions. So we all know ions is a charged atom or molecule. So bakit siya nagiging charged atom? Nagiging charged atom siya or molecule kasi ang number of protons is not equal to the number of neutrons in the atom or molecule. For example, ang kanyang proton is 11, tapos ang neutron niya is 8 lang. So ibig sabihin may yan siya, charged atom or molecule. Yan ang tawag sa ions. Next. So next is proton. So when we say protons, from the letter na nag-start ang proton, letter P, ibig sabihin, nag-indicate siya na it is a positively charged particle kung saan makikita siya sa atomic nuclei. Ang number of protons in an atom is also referred as the number of the element. So mapansin nyo, may nakadugtong dito sa baba which is dapat para sa electron yan siya. So si electron naman, kung si proton positive, electron is a negative charge and are electrically attracted to the positive charged protons. So isang trivia about electrons. Sa kanilang tatlo, ang pinakamaliit talaga is si electron kasi siya ay 1,800 times smaller kaysa kay proton at saka kay neutron. Wala si neutron dito. So si electron ang pinakamaliit kay proton at kay neutron. So dito, when we say atomic number, diba usually pag maglantaw ka sa imuhang periodic table na sa upper part si atomic number. So na-mention ko kanina, ang number ng proton, siya din ang number ng siya rin ang atomic number. So the number of protons in the nucleus of each atom of that element are the same. So all elements have different atomic number. Hindi siya pwede na magkakapareho. Pa-next ako, please. Nawala talaga si neutron. Nakita niyo si neutron, guys? Or ako lang wala nakakita? So, i-discuss ko na lang. Si neutron, if protons and electrons are positive and negative charge, si neutron naman, siya ay isang uncharged particle. Kung saan mahanap si proton, doon rin mahanap si neutron sa atomic nuclei. So next, the atomic weight. It is the average mass of atoms of an element. It also indicates the size of an atom. Ibig sabihin, kung ano ang atomic weight, yun din ang size niya. So, dito sa family or group, na-discuss ni Miss Dumlao kanina, saan makikita si family or group. So, family or group are used to describe sets of elements sharing common properties. It usually refers to one or more columns of periodic Wait lang kasi nag-rumble pala. So family or group is used to describe sets of elements sharing common properties. It usually refers to one or more columns of the periodic table. So saan ganit makita si family or group? Ito yun sila yung nasa taas, yung dimension kanina ni Ira, yung mga halogens, yung mga boron groups, alkali metals, yun sila ang family or groups. So sila pababa yung kanilang tawag nito, parang pagtingnan mo pababa sila. Ang period naman is pa-horizontal or yung ginasabi ni Ira na pabalang. So it begins when a new principal energy level begins. It is the horizontal row in the periodic table. A period begins when a row principal energy level begins filling with the electron. So in your periodic table, as you can see, beside hydrogen, lithium, and sodium, if tingnan nyo dyan, there is a number na 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yan sila ang period nyo. So lahat yan na nakalinya dyan is lahat ng pabalang or lahat ng pa-horizontal na area ng 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ang tawag sa kanila ay period. So, yun lahat guys ang mga terms na ginagamit usually na makita natin sa ating periodic tables. Next is, punta tayo kay Sir Lingo.
Hello, wait lang po. Nag-lag ang PC. So good afternoon everyone. Sa pagkuha natin sa proton, there's different ito na lang. Sa pagkuha natin sa proton, meron siyang technique. So ang technique niya, ang protons is equals to atomic number. So kung ano yung atomic number, yun din yung protons ng isang element. So sa copper natin, in case sa number 1 copper, the atomic number of copper is 9. So at the neutron, there's a simple formula. To get the neutron, we must minus the atomic mass and the atomic number. So i-minus daw natin yung atomic mass tsaka atomic number. So sa copper, we minus 64 minus 29. So ang kinalabasan niyan is 35. So kaya nakuha natin ng 35 na neutron. So in the electron, meron ding specific na basic formula. So the atomic number minus the charge. So if there's no charge, i-leave it blank na lang, 0. So 29 pa din ang kanyang electron. So parehas sa number 2, ganun din, 23 ang atomic number, 23 ang proton. Sa 75 minus 23 is equals to 52. Then sa electron, 23 also kasi walang charge. Sa hydrogen, 1 atomic number niya ang 1, then also 1 din ang kanyang proton. Ang kanyang neutron, 1 minus 1 is equals to 0. Kaya naging 0 ang kanyang neutron. Then sa electron, 1 din kasi wala siyang charge. And hello po. I can turn on my cam.
Pero,
Why? Wait lang po. Sige. Pwede pa next po. So sa Cl, ganun din. Proton atomic number 17 din ang proton. 35 minus 17 is equals to 18 ang neutron. Then 17 kasi wala tayong charge, 17 ang electron. Then dito sa Na, sa sodium, meron siyang charge. So, balikan natin sa proton. Atomic number niya is 11, 11 din ang proton. 23 minus 11 is equals to 12. Then sa pagkuha ng electron, atomic number is 11 minus 1. Minus 1 kasi meron tayong charge na isa. So, kaya naging 10 ang ating electron. So, move on sa number 6. Then, atomic number ng oxygen is 8. Then, which is 8 ang kanyang proton. 17 minus 8 is equals to, 8, mali lagi. Mali lagi. Wait lang. Dapat to? 17 minus 8. Tama. Tama diba?
Error lang yan, typographic error.
Okay po. So, 9 dapat dito ang answer sa neutron. So to get the electron of oxygen, meron tayong negative 2 charge. So sa pag-solve natin diyan, ang atomic number niya is 8 minus negative 2. So pag negative tsaka negative, it becomes positive, 'di ba? So kung 8 minus negative 2 is equals to 10. Kaya naging 10 ang kanyang electron. So, gets pa po? Any question? May next pa ba? Sa ganito din, sa element, sa ganito. So, sa AI, meron ang atomic number niya is 13. 13 ang proton, neutron, 27 minus 13 is equals to 14 ang neutron. Then, ang electron, 13 minus 3. 13 minus 3 is equals to 10. Yeah. Ganun ang pagkuha ng proton, neutron, electron. So, in summary, sa proton, always lang natin tandaan na ang proton is equals to atomic number. Nabulol pa ko. Is equals to atomic number. Then, ang neutron, meron siyang atomic mass minus atomic number sa pagkuha ng neutron. Sa electron, atomic number minus the charge of the element. Yun lang pagkuha. Thank you. So, I'll pass the stage to my group mates.
So guys, welcome back again. It's me, Char. So, since medyo taas-taas naman to atong topic ganina, mag-play ulit tag game para mawala tong stress dara, no? So, kung kaganina guess the emoji, karon guess the element. So, I hope na may gunit na periodic table, no? O unta mag-participate ang tanan para medyo mawadaan tag stress. Charot. Tapos, we will guess the element. So, ang ano nito is, magbigay kami ng symbol and then paunahan mag-answer. Paunahan mag-raise or kung walang mag-raise, pwede rin i-chat nyo na lang. So, next slide. So, ang first element is RU. So, ano kaya yun si RU? Si RU is merong atomic number na 44. Oh, si Precious. Si Precious ang una kong nakita na nag-raise hand. So, ano yan? Yeah, so ano ang atomic weight ni ruthenium?
Atomic weight niya is, pwede hindi yung naka-round off.
Sige, kung ano yung nakita mo dyan.
192. 192.
Yes, 192. Next. Ang element natin ay si S and M. SM. Ano kaya to sila?
Samarium.
Si?
Samarium.
Hindi ko narinig. Sinin ay si Daniel. Guys, ang mga mag-answer dito later ha, may ipag-game rin kami mamaya after. So si Daniel at saka si Precious. Yes, si SM ay si... Nawala yung topic ko. Si samarium. So ano ang atomic weight ni samarium?
150.
Opo, 150. Okay, next. Ang next symbol natin ay si RB. Ano yan siya? Saan yan siya? Si rubidium. So si RB ay mayroong atomic weight na
85.
okay, very good. Sino yung nag-answer? Si Justin. Okay, next. Ang element natin ay si Y.
Yttrium.
Si? Ko narinig. Sorry, guys. Si yttrium. Ilan ang atomic weight ni yttrium?
90.
88. 88.
89.
89.
89.
88.90.
Opo. 88.90. Last natin itong next. So, ang symbol natin ay si YB. Ano yan siya? Ano rin kaya ang atomic weight ni YB?
Ytterbium.
Ytterbium. Anong atomic weight ni ytterbium?
173.
173.
173. So, medyo na-refresh kayo, guys. And if meron kayong questions about sa reporting namin or may hindi clear, pwede kayo mag-message dito sa chat box, tapos i-cater namin after ng reporting. Thank you so much. Next is ang reporter natin ay si Miss Keja.
Hello guys, so I'm Trisha. So mag-report ako about sa history on the development of periodic table of elements. So first is, so ang development ng periodic table is nag-start kay Antoine Lavoisier. So Lavoisier daw yan siya. So during 1789, he grouped the elements based on their properties into gases, non-metals, metals, and earths. And then next, also, Antoine Lavoisier is a French chemist. Next is si Johann Wolfgang Dauberreiner. So, Johann is a German physicist. So, during 1829, he observed physical similarities in physical and chemical properties of certain elements and arranged them in groups of 3 in increasing order of atomic weight and called them triads. So dito sa triads niya, may na-observe siya na in some properties in the middle element is ma-predict daw from the other 2 elements. So next is during 1860, a breakthrough came with the publication of a revised list of elements and their atomic masses at the First International Conference in Chemistry, Karlsruhe, Germany. So during 1860, dun ang pinag-usapan nila dito sa conference nila is they concluded that hydrogen would be assigned the atomic weight of 1, and the atomic weight of other elements would be decided by comparison with hydrogen. So for example daw, ang carbon is 12 times heavier than hydrogen. So ibig sabihin ang atomic weight daw ng carbon is 12. So next is si Alexandre Emile Beguier de Chancourtois. So during 1862, he established the vis telluric or telluric screw. So this vis telluric screw is a 3-dimensional arrangement of elements constituting an early form of periodic classification. So telluric screw plotted the atomic weights of the elements on the outside of the cylinder. So sa pag-arrange ng classification niya dun sa elements, so he used this vis telluric telluric screw, which made him the first to use the periodic arrangement of all elements, showing that similar elements appear at periodic atom weights. So next is si John Newlands. So si John Newlands is a German, So John Newlands is a British chemist. So he was the first to arrange the elements into periodic table with increasing order of atomic masses. He found that every 8 elements had similar properties and called this the law of octaves. So gi-arrange na yung elements by 8, every 8 elements in increasing order of masses, but hindi siya nag-leave ng gaps for undiscovered elements. So next is si Dmitry Mendeleev. So ito yung halos kilala ng lahat when it comes to periodic table. So during 1869, he created the framework that became the modern periodic table. So dito sa kanya is yung modern periodic table niya is di-arrange niya and then nag-leave siya ng gaps for undiscovered elements. So si Mendeleev, gi-predict niya yung properties of the undiscovered elements and gave them names such as eka-aluminium. So itong eka-aluminium, later to siya na-discover as gallium. So meron din siyang ibang discoveries such as scandium, germanium, kung saan nag-verify sa predictions niya ng mga undiscovered elements, yung gilive niya na gap sa arrangements niya. And then yung periodic table niya is nag-win ng universal recognition. And during 1955, the 101st element was named Mendeleevium. So ayan Mendeleevium in his honor. So next is si Lothar Meyer. So si Lothar Meyer is a German chemist. So during 1870, he produced a version of periodic table similar kay Mendeleev. So ang similarities lang nito is nag-leave din siya ng gaps for undiscovered elements, pero yun nga lang sa kanya is hindi niya na predict yung properties ng elements na yun. Unlike kay Mendeleev na na-predict niya yung properties ng undiscovered elements. And then by 1882, both Mendeleev and Meyer awarded the Davy Medal by the Royal Society of London. So last is Henry Moseley. So si Henry Moseley, during 1913, he used X-ray to measure the wavelengths of elements and correlated these measurements to their atomic numbers. So meron siyang ginawang paraan para kung paano daw isolve yung atomic numbers ng elements. So nag-develop siya ng X-ray gun, tapos gang niya siya as a sample ng elements, and then i-measures niya yung wavelengths ng X-rays na given. He used this to calculate the frequency and found that when the square root of this frequency was plotted against the atomic number, the graph showed a perfect straight line. So this is yung way niya para i-solve yung atomic numbers ng elements. So yun lang. So proceed na for the next topic.
So, okay, I'm back. Sana all na-come back. Sure lang. So, when naming elements naman, hindi lang yan parang easy process na pag nakadiscover ako ng element, kay parang i-name ko na siya after sa akin, like dumlanium or wait lang, kapangit. Wait lang. Sige, next. So, hindi yan siya easy process. So, hindi ka lang basta-basta or hindi lang basta kahit sino ang maggawa ng name ng element. So, next. Krizia, next. Hello. Okay. So we actually have an authorized organization for the nomenclature and symbol of elements. So that is the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, or in short, IUPAC. So makita natin sa IUPAC sa lahat ng periodic table. So if you have time, you can check your periodic table as well. Kung makita nyo sa IUPAC. Kung wala kayong makita, magbili kayo bago kasi baka fake yan, mamali pa kayo sa quiz. So yun, basta si IUPAC, i-remember natin, siya lang talaga yung authorized organization na responsible for the nomenclature and pagbigay ng symbol sa mga elements. Next. So how are the elements in the periodic table named? So elements don't gain official names and symbol after their discovery has been verified. So first, pag naka-discover ka ng element, kailangan mo muna siyang i-propose kay AUPAC. And then, si AUPAC naman, kailangan niyang i-verify kung nag-exist ba talaga yung ganitong element and kung distinct ba siya, kakaiba ba siya from any other element. Kasi kung may similarity, hindi siya i-accept ni AUPAC as new element. So yun. Then a name and symbol may be proposed by the discoverer. Okay, next. Okay, yan. So according to the IUPAC, elements can be named after a mythological concept, a mineral, a place, or a country, a property, or a scientist. So we included some examples. Okay, next slide. So for examples of elements na named after mythological concepts, first we have, next. So first we have si Mercury, which is named after the Roman messenger of Greek or Roman gods pala. So si Mercury, also known as Hermes kung sa Greek mythology pa siya. So next example we have, okay, we have Prometheum. So the element Prometheum was named after Prometheus. So if you don't know Prometheus, siya yung parang nagnakaw ng fire from the Roman gods and gave it to mankind. So that's how fire started daw according to mythology. So si Prometheum, named after the Roman god Prometheus. So another example kay Helium, which is named after the sun god Helios. So for elements naman na named after scientists, first kay C. Next. So first is ang Mendelevium or yung na-report kanina ni Krija. So Mendelevium, of course, in honor of the creator of the periodic table, C. Dmitri Mendeleev. And also, another example kay Einsteinium, which is in honor of Albert Einstein. Next example. So elements naman or named after countries, we have francium after the country France, and germanium, which is based on the Latin name of Germany, which is Germania. So that's it for the examples of elements na named after mythological references, country, or scientist. So next slide. Okay, skip na to kasi ma-report ko siya sa next slide. So skip na to, Krisha. Okay, so IUPAC also established some rules and conventions when we use or when we write elements. So first is elements names are not proper nouns. So when we say proper nouns, ginakapitalize natin yung first letter ng name kasi it specifies a person, a thing, or a place. Pero since dito, hindi daw proper noun ang element, so we must write the name of the element in lowercase or small letters. So second, element symbols are 1 or 2 letter symbols. So if you look at your periodic table, wala kang makita na 3-letter symbol. Kasi sabi ni IUPAC, dapat maximum of 2 letters lang ang symbol ng element. And also, the first letter is capitalized, the second letter is lowercase. So important to siya na ma-apply natin when writing the symbol. Kasi for example, isulat natin yung symbol ni osmium, which is OS. So if i-capitalize natin yung both letters, mabasa siya as oxygen and sulfur, which is mali. So dapat osmium. So dapat i-follow talaga na pag magsulat ng symbol, ang first letter is naka-uppercase and ang second letter is naka-lowercase. So third, halogen element names have an "in" ending. So for example, we have chlorine, iodine, bromine, and chlorine or fluorine. So fourth, noble gases name ends with "on." So ang mga name doon ng elements na under kay noble family or noble gases kay naga-end with "on", like neon, argon, krypton, pero exception dyan is si helium kasi nga nasabi ko kanina, si helium was named after a mythological concept. So next rule. So newly discovered elements may be named for a person, place, mythological reference, property, or mineral. So nakabigay na kami kanina ng example, so mag-proceed na tayo sa next na rule, which is elements are named by their official discoverer. And once an element discovery is confirmed, the person or lab responsible for the discovery submits a proposed name and symbol to the IUPAC. So in addition, hindi lang element yung gina-verify ni IUPAC. Kasali na dito yung name and symbol na ma-propose ng discoverer. Kasi dapat distinct talaga yung iyong name and yung symbol. Kasi kung hindi, kailangan mo mag-come up ulit ng mas unique na name and symbol for your element. So that's the last rule, I think. Okay. So for the next question, where did the symbols of the elements derive? So actually, in most cases, ang symbols ng elements were derived either from their Latin or English names. So Latin language back then was established kasi as a standard language used in scientific writings. So yung mga scientific names ng mga organisms are actually Latin language or based on Latin. Pero trivia, Latin language is considered as a dead language na today. Kaya hindi na siya ginagamit for naming new scientific discoveries or concepts kasi dead language na siya. So example nito, yung gold na kilala natin ngayon is aurum back then. Kaya AU yung kanyang symbol. And yung silver ngayon is argentum dati. So doon nakuha ang kanyang symbol which is AG. Next. Okay, so we also have elements na ang kanilang symbols were derived from their German names. For example, is it tungsten? So ang kanyang symbol is W, which parang kakaiba kasi wala siya talaga hindi siya makita sa name ng tungsten. So it is actually derived from the German name, which is wolfram. So actually, we use tungsten on a daily basis. So makikita to siya sa ating mga earphones. So tungsten helps improve the bass quality of our earphones. So pag maganda yung sound quality ng inyong earphones, this is actually because of tungsten or the presence of tungsten. And lastly, so yun na yung mga symbols na derive from the English names na ng mga element. So examples is si aluminum, which is Al ang kanyang symbol, and si sulfur, which is S ang kanyang symbol, and many other. We have oxygen, ang kanyang symbol is O, and many more. So hindi ko na isa-isayin pa kasi madami masyado. So next. Okay, so things to remember. So symbols should have a maximum of 2 letters lang talaga, and the first letter must be in uppercase, and the second in lowercase. So for the conclusion, this will be given by Louise.
Nalulog pa sa inyo.
So hello guys, I will give some conclusion in this activity. So in this activity, we learned about the periodic table of elements, its history, content, and the symbols, and even the protons, electrons, and neurons. This topic is already familiar, so we find it easier to answer because of our past knowledge and discussion that was being tackled back when we was still in senior high school. Therefore, this activity made us remember and apply all of our acquired understanding in this topic. It also helped us master the periodic table of elements. So I know guys na all of us here kay na lesson naning periodic table of elements back when we were still in senior high. So I hope na naka-follow ka mo and
mas na-gets nyo yung mga important things to know, especially ang concept about periodic table of elements. So, yun lang.
So guys, since tapos na kami mag-report, do you have any questions? Like may hindi kayo masyado naintindihan or meron kayong mga like gusto i-ask since mag-quiz tayo after nito, baka may gusto kayo na i-question nyo na agad if may hindi kayo naintindihan. So wala, mag-raise lang kayo ng hand or mag-give lang kayo dyan sa chat box.
So is that it? Are you done, Group 3?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you, Group 3. You are very prepared with your report. Actually, I'm also impressed that you just not reported what was required in the activity, but also you included other things that we actually need to know. So for that, thank you, Group 3. Stop share ko muna ito ha. Ay, wait lang. I need to check first. Let's go back again to the prediction of the protons, neutrons, and electrons. Katong may mga numbers. Number 2 at ito siya, no? Number 3. Let us check whether your answers are correct, so that your classmates will also know if their submissions are also the same sa inyuha and also correct. Ayan. Sige, let us see. Let us check once again. So we have here, ko na siya, dili na. Lang na siya. Ayan, thank you. So again, let's have a little review, though they have already reported this one, para lang yung dili malimtan class. To make it easier for us to remember how to predict the numbers of the subatomic particles, let us all remember that when you say number of protons, we should look at the atomic number. Again, always remember the atomic number represents the number of protons. If you are confused, class, in your periodic table, the one that I required you to do, katong inyong gi-illustrate, activity 3, that is the reason why I only ask you to write two numbers, atomic number and the atomic mass or the mass number. Kasi yun lang yung gagamitin natin ngayon and at the same time sa mga succeeding natin na mga lessons sa chemistry. Now, if you're confused, asa dapit si atomic number, asa dapit si atomic mass, ang inyong tandaan, most of the time, the atomic number is lesser compared to the atomic mass. Kasi remember, atomic number only represents the number of protons, while atomic mass represents 2 subatomic particles, and that's the number of protons at the same time the number of neutrons. So always na siya mas dako ang atomic mass kaysa sa atomic number. So si hydrogen lang na siya, for example, ang pantay sila. Now, for the number of neutrons, since atomic mass represents the number of protons and neutrons, then we can say that to get the number of neutrons, we will just subtract this one, atomic mass minus the atomic number. So do not forget that. And then for the number of electrons, please remember, if the given is a neutral element or a neutral atom, which means wala siyang charge, class. Pag walang charge, it means the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. Again, parehas sila. Number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. Now, mag-iiba itong electrons if we have charges. So later, we will discuss that one. Now, let's look at their answers if tama ba ni ilahang gi-submit dinhi or ilahang gi-present. So for copper, yes, this is correct, 29, looking at the atomic number. Now, for the neutron, di ba, ingon ko, minus lang, 64 minus 29 is 35. Okay. It's raining. Actually, yeah, it's raining also here. I hope you can still follow sa ato ang discussion. And then take note, the copper here is a neutral one, thus wala siya charge, which means we also have 29 electrons. Now for arsenic, I don't know if I have corrected this last time, but I think I told you that this is 33 here. Did I correct you? Did I correct this last time?
Yes, ma'am. Ano ni mo, ma'am? Erase ni mo siya, ma'am. Ano ni mo 33.
Okay, sige. So since this is a typographical error, arsenic here is 33. If you check it in the periodic table, the atomic number of arsenic is 33. So supposedly, class, the correct answer here is 33 also. That is for the number of protons and also with the number of electrons. Ayan. And 75 minus 33, that is, this one is 42. Okay? I hope naka-follow pa. And then we have hydrogen. So this is correct. This is also correct. 1 minus 1 is 0. And we don't have charge here. So this is also 1. So these are class the correct answers for these items. Questions so far? Kasi nabutaan na. So let's move on to number 4. Kindly move the slide. Okay, thank you. Now for number 4, we have chlorine there. That is a neutral atom. So this is correct. 17, 17. And 35 minus 17 is 18. Now we have here the sodium. Positive, meaning this is a sodium ion. Class, if an element either loses or gain an electron, that's the time mahimo siya ion. Mag-assume siya og charge, whether positive or negative. So in this case, sodium positive siya, which means mas marami ang proton niya kaysa sa electron. Actually, kapag ganito na mas marami si proton, ang ibig sabihin niya nag-lose siya ng electron. Okay? Nag-lose siya ng electron. So we have here 11 pa rin. Take note, wala nag-change ang number ni protons because the protons actually are unique for each element, and that is actually a way to identify an element. Counting the protons will help you identify what element is that. And then neutrons also don't change in this case. So this is still 23 minus 11 equals 12. The only thing that changes when the neutral atom becomes an ion is the electron. Pag nahimo ganina siya positive ang charge, it means positive. Nag-lose na siya og electron. That is why mas daghan ang iyahang proton, wala nga positive iyahang charge. So how will you know kung unsa kadaghan ang iyahang na-lose? By the number dinhi sa iyahang charge. Pag automatic gani either positive or negative lang ang nakasulat, 1 na siya class. Okay? 1 na siya automatically. So, positive 1 siya, meaning mas daghan daw og isa iyahang proton. So, this is 10 here. Meaning si sodium nag-lose na siya og isa ka electron. So, your answers are correct. Now, that is also true for oxygen. Oxygen ion, we have 8 and 8 here for protons and neutrons. They don't change. But we have negative 2 here. Pag ang charge gani class negative, it means na-gain ang atuang element ug electrons. Mao na nga mas daghan ang iyahang electrons compared sa iyahang protons. Parehas ani, negative 2 ang iyahang charge. It means it has 2 more electrons kaysa sa iyahang protons. So kung yung protons kay 8, meaning ana, naa siya 10 kabuok na electrons. So I hope nasundan to siya. Questions? You can ask questions anytime. You can butt in or you can send your questions sa chat. Wait lang ha, murag. Dali lang, I'll be back. Edit lang yun. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Let us continue. Actually, I really don't know if you can see the score kasi dati pag nag-check ako ng submission, gina-click na ako ng na-button mo dito nga ibutang na ko ang inyuhang score sa inyuhang submission tapos ibutang na ko. I-click na ko tong button nga the students can see the score. Pero nagreklamo ang student kay dili nila makita. Let me check later if it is still the same sa inyong kay murag i-update man nila ang Schoology. Pag mag-check na ko since I did not find time to check last time. So mag-ingon ra ko sa inyo kung nag-check na ba ko and then tell me if dili ninyo makita ang score. Okay? So let us continue. Napay isa ka number, right? Hangtod 7 ni siya. Okay. So this is aluminum ion. Again, aluminum ion na siya since na siya charge. So definitely, protons and neutrons are still the same. So this is still 13. And then 27 minus 13 is 14. Now the charge is positive 3, which means this element loses loses electrons. So pila ka buok iyahang gi-lose? 3. So that is the reason why it has more protons. Na siya 3 kabuok na more protons, so 13 minus 3, the correct answer is 10. That's how class you predict number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Questions so far?
None, ma'am.
Okay, so a reporter, I think you can stop the screen sharing now. And then let us continue, though actually most of this have been reported by the reporters. Let me just add sa mga hindi nila na-report. I'll be giving you a copy of this slide also for your reference. This is still about the activity number 3, the periodic table. Let's just have some review. Though Ira have reported this. This one is our modern periodic table. Again, this is our modern periodic table. As you can see, we already have 118 confirmed elements so far. From the first element you can see there, the hydrogen, up to the 118th element, we have there OG or the organeson. So this periodic table of elements, syempre, contain the elements arranged according to their increasing atomic number. Naka-increasing atomic number ni sila class. So we start here with 1, going there sa helium, 3, 4, 5, and so on. However, as they arrange the periodic table according to the increasing atomic number, they actually noticed that the elements being grouped together, whether it is vertical or horizontal na grouping, share some similar characteristics. Thus, we have now the groupings like, we call it groups or family. By the way, groups or family, pareho lang yan sila class ha. They are the vertical grouping of our elements. So, na-point out na ito kanina, I hope you are listening sa reporter, na this one, vertical, from hydrogen going to francium, or beryllium, bemagka, cerbara, pababa. Those are the so-called groups or families in the periodic table, vertical. And when you say groupings or groups or families, the similar characteristic that they have is actually, we refer it as the valence electrons that they have in their outermost shell. So again, when you say valence electron, these are the electrons found in the outermost shell. So kung na kay atom class, this is the nucleus. Surrounding the nucleus are energy shells wherein we have high probability of finding the electron. So kung unsa tong pinaka-last niya nga shell o kung pila ka buok ang electrons din ha sa pinaka-last nga shell mo natong ginatawag og valence. And again, pag unsang group sila na belong, like group 1A, ang meaning ana, they only have one valence electron in their outermost shell. And pasunod na siya. If they belong to group 2A, they also have two valence electrons in the outermost shell. Ano siya ang similarity nila when they are being grouped together as one group or one family. Now, the other classification of the elements in the periodic table is what we call the period. So you can see the periods here because when you say period class, it's the horizontal arrangement or groupings of the periodic table. Yung ni Ira kagaina, pahalang, meaning paana. Sorry, dili ako ma-straight ako ang gidrawing. But anyway, like group 1 class, we only have two elements in group 1 and that is hydrogen and helium. Now, what is their common characteristic here? It's actually the number of the outermost shell. So meaning ana, kung nabilong sila sa group 1 class like hydrogen, if this is the nucleus, they only have one energy shell. Okay, one energy shell. Pag na sila sa group 2, like this one sa lithium, it means na sila duha ka energy shell. And that is true until 7, meaning our largest atoms belong here sa period 7. Why are they called the largest atoms? Because they have class 7 ka energy shells. Pero na, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, kulang isa. Okay. So muna, ang mga naa diri sa group 7 from francium going to oganisson, again, they have 7 energy shells where we can find the electrons. But the number of electrons in the outermost shell is determined by what group they belong. So like group 1A, diba, the reporters reported that we call this alkali metals. They are all metals except for hydrogen, and that they contain one electron in their outermost shell. That is true for beryllium also. They have two electrons in their outermost shell. And then if we jump here sa group 3A, the boron group, they have 3 electrons and so on na siya hangtod diri sa noble gases. So sa noble gases, since they belong to group 8A, that means that they have 8 electrons in their outermost shell, and then that means they have completed the octet rule. So di ba ang octet rule, ang nguna nga rule, the element will become stable if it has 8 electrons in the outermost shell. Mo nagitawag silang noble gases class because they don't really react with other elements because they are stable. They are already stable. They don't need other elements for them to complete the octet rule. Mo na siya ang reason. Yan ang gitawag siya noble gases. Now, the groups in the periodic table are divided into two. We have the family A and the family B. Okay, the family A, as you can see, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, that is what we call the representative elements. Kung nabilong sila sa family A. But pang family B class, take note of this, the family B at the center, kita na to ang pangalan sa ilahang groups, including the actinide and lanthanide series sa baba. They are under the family B and we call them the transition elements. Now, what I am asking you is to be familiar with the names of the elements at the same time their symbols. Again, let me remind you, last time I told you that to familiarize the names and the symbols, but I'm not asking you to memorize the atomic number and the atomic mass. Names lang and symbols. Okay? Because we need that pag-abot sa ato ang next na activity. Our next activity is about naming chemicals. So I'll be giving you chemical formula and then you have to give the name, and the vice versa. Meaning ang kabaliktaran niya, I'll be giving you names and you have to give me the chemical formula. So muna siya ato ang next nga topic. So in preparation to that, I need you to be familiar with the names and symbols of the elements. You have questions? Wala? So naka-color coding ato ang elements sa periodic table ha, like this one. Group 1A, they are called the alkali metals, though hydrogen also belongs to group 1A, but that is not a metal. Group 2A is called the alkaline earth metal. And then again, the blue ones here are the transition metals. The orange ones from aluminum to livermorium are the basic metals. So definitely we have more metals in the periodic table. Kasi so far, metals to tanan akong giingon except for hydrogen. Now, the green ones here in the screen sa periodic table are called the metalloids, or we call them semi-metals. So their characteristic is like the metals, but like the non-metals also. So we cannot really group them to either of the two. So we group them as one na lang, and we call them semi-metals or metalloids. And then we have the blue ones, carbon, the dark blue ones here, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, oxygen, sulfur, and selenium. Those are our non-metals. But actually, itong mga naka-green from 7A, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine, and even the tennessine, and also the noble gases, actually, they are also non-metals. It's just that the 7A is specifically called halogens, and the group 8A are called noble gases. But then again, they are also non-metals. So the only non-metals that we have is here, starting from carbon, going to phosphorus, selenium, and all the 7A and 8A members, including the oxygen and sulfur and the halogen. Maulang na class atong mga non-metals. The rest are metals, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 semi-metals. Kasi kaning nasa ilalom, the lanthanide series and the actinide series, they are also considered as metals, but again, they are called rare earth metals as reported by the reporters a while ago. So we rarely see them, and that is the reason why we cannot really also find compounds na ay mga metals from the lanthanide and actinide series. They are very rare. Okay, some of them are even man-made. So man-made sila, they are not really found sa nature. Okay, so again, how do we arrange a periodic table? It's arranged according to increasing atomic number. And while we arrange them according to their atomic number, there is a so-called pattern nga nag-recur, pare-parehas sila. So mo na atong tawagan na kay periodic law. Okay, the ones that are grouped together in one group share similar characteristics. Again, we call it periodic law. And the name that is mostly attributed to the development of the periodic table is actually Dmitry Mendeleev. Pero as reported by your classmates, we have lots of names that contributed in the development of the modern periodic table, starting from Antoine Lavoisier. Lagot dyan ko mag-pronounce sa niyang pangalan. Bahala na mo paano nila na i-pronounce, but anyway, Bisaya man tanong sa Lavoisier. Ayaw sa ito pronounce. Lavoy. I pronounced this actually ever since college as Lavoisier, but others also Lavoisier. So pwede po ninyo na siya gamiton, pero ang pinaka-importante din ha inyong spelling. Kaya pag mali inyong spelling sa Schoology, mali na siya diretso. Okay, he was the first one to actually set up the periodic table. He had 33 elements there, but he grouped it in 4 groups only: acid-making elements, gas-like elements, metallic elements, and earthy elements. The one thing here that is unique to Antoine is actually the presence of these two, the light and the caloric heat, which is not supposedly dili gyud na sila elements, pero gi-appeal niya din ha. Mao lang na siya ang unique sa iyang periodic table. And then we have Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner. Para madali no kay daghan kaayog nakasulat, ang inyong tandaan if you are asked who made the law of triads, meaning he grouped the elements by threes, like chlorine, bromine, and iodine, isang group sila. So law of triads, it was made by Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner. And I forgot to place another name here in the slide, John Newlands. He was the one who made the law of octaves. Kasi he noticed that in the elements of the periodic table, every 8 na element share the same property. So gigroup na lang niya together by 8. So mo na siya gitawag siya law of octaves. So again, John Newlands for the law of octaves and Johann Wolfgang the Berliner for the law of triads. And the one that is very much siya gyud ang kanang ginahatagan og pagkilala when it comes to the periodic table, it's Dmitry Mendeleev. Okay? So he actually arranged the elements sa increasing atomic mass. So muna inyong tandaan, pag Dmitry Mendeleev, atomic mass ang iyahang arrangement, increasing atomic mass in the periodic table. Though during that time when he made the periodic table, there were still elements that were not discovered yet. So that is the reason why, as you can see in the screen, na ay mga blanks din ha. Gituyo gid na niya class, he made the prediction na there are still elements na wala pa na discover and that elements will still be included in the periodic table. Thus the blanks there sa iyahang gihimo na table. Pero again, Dmitry Mendeleev, increasing atomic mass ang pag-arrange niya. And that is actually true with Lothar Meyer. Ang gihimo pud ni Lothar Meyer, ano pud gihapon, he also arranged the periodic table according to increasing atomic mass. Atomic mass gihapon. That is the reason why there are some books na ginasabay ni ilahang pangalan ni Dmitry Mendeleev. Dmitry Mendeleev and Lothar Meyer, they both arranged the elements in the periodic table according to increasing atomic mass. Though sa kay Lothar Meyer, he only had 28 elements. Preliminary niya nga list, 28 elements, and then he arranged it into 6 families by their valence, meaning according to the electrons they have in their outermost shell. That's the only difference. And lastly, mauni siya class ang pinakaduol sa ginagamit nato karon na modern periodic table, the one that was made by Henry Moseley, the first modern periodic table wherein the elements were arranged in increasing atomic number. So karon atomic number na naha by increasing atomic number, and actually the arrangement of Henry Moseley answered all the issues and questions that cannot be answered by Mendeleev and Lothar Meyer. May problema kasi sila in the arrangement using the atomic weights. There are questions, there are issues. So pag-arrange ato ni Henry Moseley na-address ang mga issues. Pag-arrange niya according to increasing atomic number. So this is how the last na mga periodic table looks like. So dati 'di ba napanay mga UUU, UUQ, UUN, meaning na yung mga elements pa na wala na discover until nahimo siya ging-ani, na some of the UUU were changed and nahatagan na silag name like this one, Flerovium and Livermorium. And katong pinakaunang periodic table na akong gipakita sa inyo hakagaina mao na to siya ang modern periodic table wherein complete atong elements hangtod 118. Okay? So nana na siya hangtod sa 118 the organism, and then kompleto na siya din hinga part. But nevertheless, we don't know sa future basig na pa day makadiscover og new element, and pwede pa magbago ang ato ang periodic table. Basig kamo to makadiscover mo bagong elements, it will be named after you and it will be placed here in the periodic table. So mabago na ang nawong sa ato ang periodic table. So how about the arrangement? Na-mention ko na kagaina, period pag horizontal, and it represents the number of electron shells. Kung sa period 1, then isa ka electron shell. And hangtod sa 7. So if you are asked how many periods are there in the periodic table, we only have 7. Now for the groups, that is the vertical arrangement, patayo. So like sa first na group 1A, halina kay rubium, francium, di ba? Hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and francium. Isa na sila ka grupo class. And we call it group or family. But again, our periodic table is divided into two families, family A and family B. The B are the transition elements. So they share the same chemical behavior. They share, klase, isa ka grupo, they share similar valence electrons, kung pila ka buo. And these are the names of our group 1A, group A na family. Pag group 1A, we call them alkali metals. They react with water to form basic substance. The same thing with alkaline earth metal with the group 2A. 3A is the boron group, 4A carbon group, 5A nitrogen group, and the group 4 oxygen, pababa, is called chalcogen. Now, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine, and so on, we have group 7A, we call them halogen group. And lastly, we have the noble gases. Now, for the group B, or the transition metals, they are also grouped by groups 1 to 8, but B ang dugtong sa pangalan nila. Pero we only have group 1B and group 2B na ipangalan nato, balikan nato atong periodic table. Actually, the group B starts here. Dili ni siya nakapasunod. Group B in the periodic table starts here. This is the 1B. This is the 2B here. And diri kabalik sa 3B. Ayan, hangtod sa 8. Okay? So that's how we make the groupings for the family B. So ang group 1B, this one, copper, silver, and gold, we call them the coinage metals. From the name itself, coinage, ginagamit sila to make coins. Copper, silver, and gold. Now, Group 2B are called the volatile metals because though they are metals, they volatilize, especially at certain temperatures. So just like mercury, though this one is a metal, is actually a liquid one, and it can volatilize easily at certain temperature, even at room temperature. That's how we group our periodic table. So again, we have 118 confirmed elements. Paano ilahang symbol? Most of them have 2-letter symbols. How do we write the symbols? Capital ang first letter, small or lowercase ang second. But another trivia, we only have 14 out of 118 elements na merong 1-letter symbol. Pareha sa hydrogen, isa lang iyahang letter nga symbol, H lang. The same thing with boron, B. Potassium is K. Tungsten is W. But all in all, we have 14 elements na 1 letter ang symbol. The rest kay 2 letters. Okay? So, paano na siya? Na-mention po ni siya kagaina sa reporters. We have here, how do we predict the names and symbols of the elements? Other class is referred to a property of the element or some comes from their Latin words. So, na-mention ni siya kagaina ni Ira, like sa gold, di ba ang symbol na to sa gold kay AU? So, that comes from the Latin word aurum, which means shining dawn. So, maugpod na man ang characteristic good ni gold. And for mercury, di ba, our symbol for mercury is Hg. It comes from the Latin word hydrargyrum, which means liquid silver. Kay maupod ang property ni mercury. It looks like a silver, but it's in its liquid form. So that's the meaning of hydrargyrum, and dira na to gikuha ang Hg na symbol. So Hg has nothing to do with mercury. Wala kay makita na Hg din ha. But there are elements class that are named after people, like curium or katong giingon nila kagay na reporter tong Mendelevium. So it comes from Dmitry Mendeleev, but now we have here the curium that was named after Marie Curie, a scientist or a physicist who worked with radioactivity and was a Nobel Prize winner sa physics in 1903. So again, curium was named after her. So pwede po na siya na the element will be named after a person. Now, there are also elements that are named after places. Just like we have 4 elements in the periodic table that was named from a very small town in Sweden. The name of the town is Ytterby. or iter-by. But then again, upat gyud ka elements ang gipangalan din ha. We have the terbium, yttrium, erbium, and ytterbium. Diha na tanan gikan sa small town in Sweden. So daghan nga elements ang na-discover din ha nga part sa Sweden. And then syempre we have the Californium. From the name itself, we know that it was first observed from California. Aside from those that were being reported by the reporter, like elements named from mythologies, Greek mythologies, so on, pwede po ni siya sa places. And there are also elements that are named from where it is first isolated. Pareha sa potassium. Anong potassium man ang pangalan? Because potassium was first isolated sa potash, or they call it potash. So mo na siya nga nahimo siya potassium. And ang iyahang symbol kay K from the Latin word kalium, which also means potash or the potash. Dinha na siya first na discover si potassium. Potash, P-O-T and then space ash. So diha na siya giname si potassium. And the one that was being reported also the tungsten. So it was actually isolated first from a mineral called wolframite. That is why its symbol is W, which has actually nothing to do with its name nga tungsten. W kay from wolframite na siya. That's how we have our names and symbols for the elements nato. So do not forget na report po siya ni Graciela kagaina ato ang mga definition of terms like sa atom. We know that this is class our basic unit of matter and that our simplest matter is called element and all the elements have unique type of atoms. Lahi-lahi na sila class of atoms per element. Now, what are the subatomic particles? You know this very well: protons, neutrons, and electrons. P here for proton gives you a hint that's the positively charged subatomic particles. Neutron walay charge and electron ang negatively charged. Now, for the atoms class, we have two distinct regions for the atoms. The first one is the nucleus, a small, dense, most likely at the center. We just say na siya sa center, no? But what are the subatomic particles found in the nucleus? We have the protons and the neutrons. Again, both of them are found in the nucleus. Protons and neutrons. And then surrounding the nucleus will be the region that is negatively charged because that is where we find our electrons. So ano na siya, mga electron shells na to surrounding the nucleus. Now sa atomic mass, remember the atomic mass, it represents the number of protons and neutrons only. Kasi class, as they reported also, as the reporter also reported, electrons have very low mass. So wala na kayo siya gina-count when it comes to the atomic mass. Ang protons lang ug ang neutrons. So very small man gud ato ang electrons. So we have numbers like atomic number and mass number. Let's not just discuss the isotopes yet. Tomorrow na lang sa ato ang lecture. Pero pag mga numbers class found in our periodic table, this is how we write. We always write the elements ha. The symbol of the element, tapos sa taas ang mass number or ang atomic mass, tapos sa baba si atomic number. Symbol for atomic mass is A. So again, that's the proton plus the neutron. That's how you get the mass number. And for us to be uniform class, always round off the atomic mass into the nearest whole number. And then we have the atomic number at the bottom. The symbol is Z. Okay, that's the symbol Z. It represents the number of protons. By the way, protons and neutrons are collectively called as nucleons kasi both of them are found inside the nucleus. Yan. If you have questions, you ask ha, you ask. Pasig paspas ra kayo ta. So this is how the elements are arranged in a periodic table. Naagid na din ang atomic number always, the symbol, the name, and the atomic mass. Do not forget, pag mayroon kag atomic number, it represents the number of protons. Pero pag walay charge ang element, same lang sila sa electrons. Pag atomic mass, always na siya protons plus neutrons. Thus, if we want to compute for the number of neutrons, i-minus lang nato siya class. Atomic mass minus atomic number. So just like this, oxygen, 16,8. So syempre, you have 8 protons. Niya, wala man ni siya charge. So 8 po diyahang electrons. And then 16 minus 8, syempre, we'll get the number of neutrons. That is also true for phosphorus, 3115. 15 ang protons, 15 po ang electrons kasi walang charge. So 31 minus 15 is 16, so that is the number of neutrons. That is also true for zinc, pero mali ang pagkasulat, dapat na siya diri sa left side. So we have here 30 protons, the same thing with the electrons, and 65 minus 30 is 35. That's the number of neutrons. Now this will be your assignment. Take note. This will be your assignment, but next week pa ang ato ang deadline so that you'll have more time to work with this. In any piece of paper, you have to answer the following: atomic number, atomic mass, number of protons, neutrons, and electrons for the given in the screen. So we have oxygen, zinc, lithium, silicon, boron, and bromine. I will give you a copy of this PPT. So you can have a copy, and pag wala ninyo na kopya, naghihapon mo may copy para makasubmit mo sa inyong assignment. Later, I think na ata, I'm not sure, nakalimot ko kung nabutang na ba na ako siya sa Schoology or wala pa. But later, after our discussion, ibutang na ako na siya. Now, let's talk about ions. Do not forget, class, elements na na-charge are called ions. They become ions if either they lose or gain electrons. So we have two types of ions, the cation and the anion. So pag cation, class, your hint is here. The T in the cation gives you a hint that it is positively charged. So automatic anions are negatively charged. We have examples here in the screen. The cations, most of them are metals and like mga elements nato na positively charged. Nalantay na sagol din ha, the ammonium. Ammonium together with the hydroxides here in the anions, they are called polyatomic ions. Meaning they are not compounds, they are not compounds, but they do contain two or more elements, but ang kalahian nila sa compound class, ang polyatomic ions na ay charge. Para sa ang ammonium, NH4+, na siya charge na positive 1. The same thing with the anions here, hydroxide, combination of oxygen and hydrogen, tapos na ay charge. Okay? So what happened? Sa mga anion, nahimo nag-negative ilahang charge because the atom gains electron. Wala na inyong tandaan. Pag nag-gain og electron, ang atoang element, magkaroon na siyang charge which is negative. And we call it an ion. So kung nag-gain siya og isa ka electron, mo na nga negative 1 iyahang charge. Or kung nag-gain siya duha ka electron, so negative 2 po ang iyahang charge and so on. So kung pila iyahang nag-gain nga electron, na siya ang charge niya. Pero class, negative. So the other way around, nang kabaliktaran na niya, we call it cation, meaning positively charged. Ang mga element na nag-lose og electron, nakuhaan sila og electron mo na mas daghan ilahang proton, mahimo sila positively charged. We called it cation. So depende pag kung pila ilahang na-lose nga electron, mao na ilahang charge class. Kung isa lang, so positive 1. Kung duha, positive 2. By the way, natay ginatawag og monoatomic ion ha. Kanang isa lang yun ka element, isa ka klase nga atom like this one, sodium atom, Na positive. Chloride ion, Cl negative. So isa ka type nga element, we call it polyatomic ion, monoatomic ion. Pero pag combination na of more than one element, we call it polyatomic ion. Like the hydroxide here, OH is called hydroxide. So OH negative. Cn is combination of carbon and nitrogen. We call it cyanide. So that is -1. NH4 again, NH4 positive is a cation or polyatomic ion, pero positively charged. We call it ammonium. And lastly, you have their NO3 negative. We call this nitrate. So these are called polyatomic ions because they do contain 2 or more elements combined together, but they also have charges. So we cannot call them compounds. Compounds class are neutral, they don't have charge. So that's the end of the slide. Any question about activity number 3? Wala. So I'll give you time to study. Actually, I'll give you a lot of time to study. It's 3:14. Please be back at 4 o'clock. We will have our quiz at 4 o'clock. So you utilize the 45 minutes to scan your notes. We will just have a, ano lang siya, konti lang na quiz. Short quiz only.